The drama surrounding the Anthony Joshua vs. Jake Paul press conference felt less like a promotional stop and more like the first crack in something that had been carefully contained for weeks. What began as posturing and verbal sparring suddenly tipped into disorder, with bodies colliding, security scrambling, and the room briefly losing control. It was the moment where the spectacle stopped feeling theatrical and started feeling real. Not because punches were thrown, but because the tension underneath the surface finally revealed itself. This was no longer just about selling a fight. This was about pride, reputation, and two men realizing that the line between hype and consequence had been crossed. Anthony Joshua's response to the chaos made one thing unmistakably clear. He was not here to play a role. His presence, his posture, and his words stripped the situation of any illusion that this was a friendly crossover or a novelty bout. Joshua carried himself like a man who believed the entire premise of the fight was being misunderstood. To him, this was competition in its rawest form. There was no room for irony, no allowance for jokes, no tolerance for disrespect. The calm intensity he projected felt heavier than any insult could. It was the energy of a fighter who has already faced the very top of the sport and refuses to let his standards be diluted by noise. As the room recalibrated around him, Joshua made it clear that this fight was about proving superiority inside the ring, not winning the internet. He framed the matchup as a serious test where discipline, experience, and power would inevitably expose the difference between talking about boxing and living it. The message landed hard because it came from someone who has paid real prices in real fights. Joshua was not threatening for effect. He was setting expectations. And when a fighter like him draws that line, the room listens whether it wants to or not. Eddie Hearn's intervention added a layer of uncomfortable realism to the spectacle. The money had been spent, the machinery was already in motion, and there was no elegant exit left available. Whatever bravado had fueled the build-up now had to be backed up. From a business standpoint, the fight had reached a point of no return. From a human standpoint, that reality carries weight. Once the contracts are signed and the cameras are rolling, belief becomes irrelevant. Only preparation and consequence remain. Jake Paul, however, showed no signs of retreat. If anything, the chaos seemed to embolden him. He continued to speak as though the gap between him and Joshua existed only on paper. In his mind, records and resumes explained reputation, not ability. He positioned himself as a misunderstood fighter whose skill set had never been fully displayed, someone who believed that public perception lagged far behind his actual development. Whether that confidence is earned or imagined depends entirely on what happens when the bell rings, but what cannot be denied is that he genuinely believes it. And belief, even when misplaced, can be dangerous. Behind the scenes, Joshua's transformation tells a more compelling story than the shouting ever could. Insight from Alexander Usyk's camp revealed a deliberate evolution in Joshua's approach. Rather than clinging to past formulas, he accepted the need for change. The collaboration was not about rebuilding from scratch but about refining movement, timing, and ring intelligence. This version of Joshua is not obsessed with being the biggest man in the ring. He is focused on being the most effective one. That distinction matters, especially against an opponent whose path to this level has been unconventional. The weight discussion became a flashpoint for analysis, but those closest to Joshua dismissed the idea that the adjustment weakened him. At this weight, he is not smaller, just more efficient. His power remains intact, his balance improved, and his mobility sharper. The danger for Jake Paul is not simply that Joshua can hit hard, but that he can now deliver that power with greater precision and less wasted movement. A lighter, faster heavyweight who still carries knockout force is a different problem entirely, especially for someone who has never faced that level of physical authority. As the commentary grew louder, so did the concern from seasoned voices within the sport. Analysts highlighted the drastic pivot in Jake Paul's preparation, pointing out that training for a much smaller opponent and then abruptly shifting to a heavyweight like Joshua is not a minor adjustment. It changes everything. Timing, distance, conditioning, and mental readiness all operate differently at this level. Heavyweight boxing punishes mistakes brutally, and the margin for error shrinks with every pound of mass involved. Courage alone does not compensate for that reality. Criticism from figures like Simon Jordan framed the fight as an inevitability rather than a mystery. From that perspective, the danger was not whether Joshua could win, but how long it would take and at what cost to Jake Paul. The argument was not that the fight was scripted, but that outcomes in boxing often become predictable when experience gaps are this wide. The only true jeopardy for Joshua, according to this view, is reputational. Physically, He understands what real threats feel like, and he has faced them. That familiarity brings a different kind of calm. Others, like Duke McKenzie and Amir Khan, voiced deeper concerns about safety. Their perspective was not rooted in disdain for Jake Paul, but in respect for what boxing does to unprepared bodies. They acknowledged the bravery required to step into such a fight, but warned that bravery without progression can cross into recklessness. Boxing does not forgive curiosity. It only responds to readiness. One punch at this level can end more than a fight, and that reality weighs heavily on those who have lived it. What stands out most in all of this is Anthony Joshua's commitment to change. He has not approached this bout as an obligation or a cash grab. He has trained with urgency, embraced discomfort, and surrounded himself with people who push him rather than flatter him. His actions suggest a fighter intent on delivering a performance without excuses. Someone who still cares deeply about legacy, about how his name is spoken when the noise fades. There is no sign of a man preparing to explain a loss. Everything about Joshua's demeanor points towards someone who intends to make a statement. Not just to Jake Paul, but to the sport itself. That this fight exists at all says something about the modern boxing landscape. How it ends will say even more. As fight night approaches, the chaos of the press conference feels less like a marketing accident and more like a preview of the emotional stakes involved. One man believes he is about to shock the world. The other believes he is about to remind it of reality. Only one of those beliefs can survive the opening bell. Now the question turns to you. Do you think Anthony Joshua's experience and evolution will make this a brutal reality check? Or do you believe Jake Paul has the tools to defy everything the boxing world expects? Drop your prediction in the comments. If you want more deep, story-driven boxing documentaries like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter.